of the club Real Madrid that you obviously should know. And the purpose of today is become in my background, I have created several startups, create several business. And in my current job, I see a lot of startup also in the sports world, because in the last 6 years, I should have reviewed more than 1,200 projects. So it's a lot. So also I know exactly what is expected by a club as Real Madrid from the perspective of a big club as Real Madrid is what we expect from a startup, about what they propose, the profile of the peoples, the kind of business model the company propose. And what I like to do is just to explain how to enter in the world of sports, because I think it's your main idea to create something around sports, because if not, you will be not in the MBA of Escuela Real Madrid, and so you're interested in creating companies and working in sports area, I guess. So that's why I want to share my experience, how I arrive from nothing to some good exit, good startup success. And so, as Javier say, also please stop me whenever you want to ask me something, a question, details, precision, information, feelings, whatever you want to make the conversation much more interactive and not only something I'm going to speak just by myself. So to start explaining the background and how to create a company in the sports world, first of all, I was doing mechanical engineering. So I passed my diploma of engineer in mechanics. Was not happy at all what was offering me this career. So I decided to make a master in France. I'm French, so I was studying in France. And then I make a master degree in events and security of infrastructures. And it's the moment in 2005 when I start to work in Stade de France, so the Paris stadium of 80,000 seats, where Real Madrid played the Champions League in 2022, if you remember, against Liverpool. So Stade de France was officially launched in 1998 for the World Cup in France, 1998. So in 2005, when I start working here, were quite a new structures. 80,000 seats, and my job at the moment was to work on the crowd assessment, crowd entrance, and evacuation in case of problems. So I start to work in safety and security department. And it was like 6 months really interesting. I was working with French football team. I was working with the LOSC, so the club of Lille, that was playing its Champions League game in 2005 in the Stade de France in Paris, because they were building a new stadium for them in Lille, so in the north of France. So they were not able to play in their stadium. They were playing to Stade de France in Paris. And so it was like major events, Champions League events, international events with the French football team. And so it was nice to start as a first experience in football there. And so I think you are at the same point I was in 2005, because now you are in Real Madrid. You do master MBAs in Real Madrid, and so you are able to be close to what is the biggest stuff in the world, Real Madrid, big stadium, Bernabeu. So you are more or less at the same point I was in 2005 when I was working in Stade de France during my career in master. And what happened to me at the moment, so I start to have an idea that there is a lot of lack in the safety and security assessment with all the private security, private guards. You should know that in a stadium of 80,000 seats, you have between like 800 and 1,500 of people making security, you know, the guys in yellow to control the tickets, control the turnstile, control the access, VIP, etc. And the cost is really high, because you should pay those guys between 20-25 euro per hour, because it's external outsource. It's not people belonging to the club, never. It's all the time something you outsource. In the Real Madrid case, we work with Prosegur, so we have all the guy in Prosegur. In France at the moment was a bit different. Every stadium, every club has like 3, 4, 5, 6 different company to provide the guys to work in safety and security. Plus, you should pay the policeman. If you use the policeman to the stadium, you should pay an extra fees. So if you sum up all of these people spending 4, 5 hours in the stadium, you could have an invoice only for outsourced security of over 100,000 euros every game. So we speak about 100,000 euros every game only for the guys that control tickets, turnstile, and the stands. So it's a lot of money. If you organize 30 events per year in your stadium, so we speak about 3 millions of euros. When Real Madrid makes 1.2 billions of turnover every year, but for other little organizations that have also stadium of 50,000 or 60,000 seats, that doesn't make 1.2 billion as Real Madrid, but much more, like 200 millions, 300 million, an average budget for a good football clubs. 3 millions in safety and security starts to be a lot. And the most thing they want is to not spend money for security. So during the next 3 years, until 2009, from 2006 to 2009, I decided to do a PhD to assess the vulnerability of complex systems such as airport of stadiums, focus on stadiums, following my experience in Stade de France, to develop an algorithm, a solution to reduce the cost of security and so reduce the number of people around the stadium, because a lot of time I see that there is overstaffing. There is a lot of people that does nothing. If you go to a stadium, you see a lot of people in yellow shirts, they do strictly nothing. There's sometimes 4, 5, 6 people per gate when just 1 or 2 is enough. But the problem was no one has a tool to assess the real needs depending the game, depending which time is the game. Is this a 9 p.m. game or 1 p.m. game in a Sunday? It's totally different as it's a Friday, a Sunday. Is the weather will be good? Is the weather will be rainy? So is the people will going late at the later, sooner in the stadium? So multi-criteria assessment. And that was my idea at that moment, is to create a system, an algorithm that use the multi-criteria approach to evaluate and assess the exact needs in safety and security on stadium. So first of all of this introduction to say, when you want to enter in the business of creating something, you should isolate a real need, some things that the people will need at the end. Because all the time we say the best ideas are not the one you search by yourself all the time. I want to find a good idea. I want to find a good idea. No, it's something came naturally, or something came from a discussion with a guy working since 20, 25 years in the events, in sports, and saying yeah, you know what, Julien, it's so many years I work in safety and security, and never we've been able to assess the exact need of people, and then one guy say you that, 2 guys say you that, 3 different guys say you that, and you say, okay, so there is really lack. There is something missing in this world. There is no algorithm, no software to measure the human needs in the gates in the stadium. And so when you start to have this identifying a lack, and you come to have an idea, and you have also the capacity to do so, because obviously I came from a career of mechanical engineer, so for me working in mathematics was like naturally, so for me it was okay, corresponding to my career, to start to develop an algorithm, something concerning mathematics, using multi-criteria approach, working of different methodology like Fibonacci suites, etc., etc. So it was something okay with my background. So if you make in relation the needs, your capacity to work on something, and you're able to create something new for this world, is the first good point to create a real project. Then what was my strategy at the moment when I start to work on this PhD? I have no idea going to have a company after. I was at the moment, I was not thinking to grow my own business. I was just thinking to come in the market with something new and propose that maybe to a prosegur, a company of security, to a stadium that could hire me as the director of security maybe. I was only knew I want to work in sports, in events, and without any network, without people to introduce you, it's super complicated. The sports world is super tiny, and without network, without people but really, really close, it's super complicated to be hired in a clubs, in a league, in a federation. So I was aware of that. So my idea was to come with something new to make my profile different of any kind of other profile the people receive. And I focus on this safety and security and staff needs. And I start to develop my PhD project during 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, we are in 2009. And I have the luck. So all the time also the business, when you do good business, is come with opportunity and chance that France was just chosen to organize the Euro 2016 in France. We organized the European Cup in 2016 in France. And so there will be a lot of money to come to renew the stadium, redesign the stadium, make them more nice for the people to come, new security system, etc., etc. So I was just at the good place at the good moment. That's also a key of a success of a company. When you come with an idea, there is the idea, but also the opportunity and the moment. If the markets open opportunities at the moment you arrive with a new idea and that match, so could be also a success. 95% of the companies that are creating new companies in Europe doesn't go over 5 years, and 70% doesn't go over 3 years. So it's very complicated to build a company that go over than 5 years of existence and that works. So a lot of fail in the world of creating startups. Not because the idea at the beginning is no good. As I said, it also can be an opportunity of market. Me, I finished my PhD almost in the same month that France was chosen to host the Euro 2016. So I benefit like all the stadium in France are going to have money to renew the stadium, to make new gates, to make new system, to make much more modernity. And at that time, I have a PhD that was over. I have a formula. I have created something in a mathematical algorithm with a long numbers everywhere to assess the safety and security. But I still not have a product. I have the formula, I have the knowledge. I spent 4 years work on that, 1 year in Stade de France, 3 years on my PhD. And now I needed to create something concrete because you need to propose something concrete to the stadiums, to the head of security of different clubs. So it's the moment when I approach some structure that help and support in every state, in every country. You have like innovation center support by the state, or financement subvention supported by the state for the new creation of companies, and you need to pass several step, obviously, to have the possibility to have some financiation from the state, etc., etc. And due to all of this opportunity, France state allocate me like 200K, 200,000 euros for the next 2 years to create a product. So I start to build a company at a moment. I start to hire people to develop a real software. So me, I didn't know nothing about codes, about development, about website. I was just mathematical guy. And with 4 years of experience in stadium working on safety and security, evacuation, crowd movement, etc. But I have no idea how to code the software. So it's the moment then you need also to be good when you explain your purpose to people that are just developers. For example, they need to code something that the same thing you have really in the head. So that's been 2 years, very complicated, because until 2012, I started at the end of 2009, I was only doing a software without being able to sell anything, because I have no product. I have only the line, I have the French state subvention, and I have like 2 guys to develop a model. My idea at the moment was to develop something using 3D mapping, because what I would like to do is to help the head of security to decide the number of staff he needs, but using a map of its stadium, like in Sim City, if you know the video game, and you create a city, you put some people, you put a school, you put a factory. But my idea was to create something super interactive, super modern. We speak about like 15 years ago, and to be able to give like a video game to the head of security, and with the mouse in the laptop, you can take some people, in a library of all the agents, put them in the floor on the stadium, and it's change automatically the level of security if you increase the number of agents or decrease the number of agents. I'm going to share one slide of my screen, so this one. So this is a description, and this is some pictures of the first software I've created with the company I created. So in 2010, called Passiva Decision. You can see that we have representation of stadium in 3D. We put the CCTV cameras. Where are the CCTV cameras? You can see also we have the staff at the gate. You see people on the pictures, and you see the pathway in colors at the floor of all the trajectory of the people entering a stadium. And so what was the algorithm does at the moment? It was giving the head of security a little control room in a tablet. It was the first time in the world in 2012, 2013, there is some tablet with graphic card inside. It was the first iPad mini in the market, was the first tablet with graphic card. And so we were the first one to propose in the world at that moment to have a mini control room, not the big control room you have in every stadium with all the screen, with all the CCTV screen everywhere. We have everything in the tablet that could be in your hands. And then the head of security was able to make the round itself everywhere in the stadium during an event. And in the tablet, he has all the positionment, all the staff position, with the possibility to tag the staff and to see the movement of the staff, with the possibility to access to all the CCTV stream in the stands, out the stadium, directly in the tablet. So we create a perfect tool to manage a stadium and to reduce the cost of the staff. Why to reduce the cost? Because the software was able to calculate every people you need to ensure the time of control ticket, the time of body searching. I know when the people touch your body to see if you don't have a knife or something, you don't allow to go to the stadium. And so we have made several audits in various stadiums in France to define how long was a good body search, like around 7-8 seconds. How long was to check a ticket, and if it's a kids to enter, to check if it's under 12-year-old, for example, in a ID card, another 7-8 seconds. And also we take into account that only the woman can make a body searching on a woman, only the men can do body search on men. And so taking into account all of these criteria, the algorithm was able to prepare a game and to say you need exactly like 58 people on this east stands, 66 on the west stands, exactly these 3-4 people on gate 1, other 5 people on gate 2, because we were also linked to the ticketing system. I mean, we knew exactly up to the last second how many people has bought a ticket and what was the gate they were obligated to take to go to the stand. So we were able to define if in the gate one we are going to host 1,258 people, for example, and then live during the event, the software was linked to the turnstile system. When the people go through the stadium, there is a counting +1, +1, +1. And the software was able to send some alerts to the head of security to say, in gate 3, we have only 50% of the people as go through the turnstile, and it remains maybe only 10 minutes before the kickoff. So if you don't extend and you don't send 3, 4 more agents to help, to body search, to check the tickets, it will be a problem because the kickoff of the game will start and people will still be outside. And so at the moment, you can create like a trouble of people forcing to enter the stadium because they know the game is starting and they want to see the game. And so you can create some crowd interaction that can go through people dying, that happen in some stadium. We have some history of people crushing the stand or crushing the barriers, and we have like collapsing and people dying sometimes. So that we want to avoid is massive trouble as die people, obviously, but also we don't want that the fans are not happy with the club and the hosting. So we want everybody in the stand before the kickoff. So that was the main purpose of the software, giving a control room portátil to the head of security of every stadium, permitting to assess the exact need of people at every game, depending of the ticketing sales, depending of the time of the game will be. If it's on the afternoon or if it's the night, we know it's different use and habits for people to come. And this system was also automatically adjusting with the time, learning from itself, because game after game, we knew gate per gate the habits of the people for every stadium to come 30 minutes before kickoff, 45 minutes before kickoff, or 10 minutes before kickoff. And so we were able to adapt the model for that. No question at the moment. Yes, I see a +1.
Yes, hi, Julien. Nice to meet
Hi.
you. Thank you for your time and thank you for the presentation. I have just in general a very, very high level revenue cost perspective question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not studying that. I am into that, but I'm not studying it so at the university. But just in regards of the KPI, so what was the major or what was the highest cost saving in perspective on an average through the application? And the follow-up question in regards of that is, could you also consider that not only for stadiums, but also for corporate buildings?
Yeah, yes, very good question. By the way, was one of my angle of attack, in when I do the commercial prospection to the stadium to speak about the savings, not only the optimization of the safety and security and hosting the crowd, but also savings. We, after 1 year of use in Valenciennes, for example, the stadium you see with the red seats was a 25,000 seat stadium, my first official customer. We have reduced by 25% the cost of the people. So he had at the time, I think he spent around 40,000 euro per game before the system, and he below around something 27, 28 per game, more than 25% of saving using my software. So I was selling the software €2 per seat. So 25,000 seat stadium was 50,000 euros, the cost of my software, including all the setup and license. And so as he reduced by 10,000 euro every game, just after 5 games, he had the rentability of buying the software. So obviously it was really attractive for the clubs to buy my software. By the way, I was selling that in a one-shot payment, so you pay the 50,000 K for example, the stadium, and then you just have 15% of maintenance fee to maintain the license and the services. So I think no, with the time I was not selling expensive enough the software. I should have sold more expensive. Maybe this cost should have been the yearly cost, not the one-shot cost plus 15% of maintenance. But I was starting in the business, and so for me, it was all full new to define the cost. The business model was complicated. My problem at that moment, and that's why your question also is good, because you learn after, when you do mistake, etc. My mistake at the moment is I was developing all my software with free money, because I have the money from French state. They give me 200,000 euros to start, because it was a complicated process. They don't give to everyone. I go through several steps with my PhD, etc., etc. I was one of the top potential good creator of business in France, and they give me that. But so I didn't have so much in my head the real cost of maintaining a company. And then when you need to pay the guy, pay the charges, pay everything, the renting of the office. Also, in my new creation of company, I have the right during like almost 5 years to have free offices, etc. Well, they give you a lot of things in France and in Spain also to start business. So you have several advantages. Sometimes you don't have all the realistic cost of creating a product and maintaining in the time a product. Because when 5-6 years after, when I created my company, I was paying 100% of everything. I didn't have any free offices, didn't have any free Microsoft licenses, because I have also free Microsoft license to work, etc., etc. When you pay everything, you say, well, the general maintenance cost I sold was not enough to maintain my whole company, And so then after you say that could be possible to have this system working for other things as stadium, if I understand the question. It's the case because in 2014, after many years of discussion, I sold this same software to Paris Airport, to Charles de Gaulle and Orly. And so they were managing the number of people in the control of the guys and the people, in every gate, depending of the landing and depending of the taking off of plane. It's the same system, like exactly how many people are buying tickets and which gate they're going through. So in the airport at the end was working at the same. How many planes take off from which gate and how many people have buy a ticket. So finally, when you need to control the bag, etc., you can expect more or less how many people you're going to have during all the day, So that's why I convinced them to use that, and we have been in charge of Orly Airport and Charles de Gaulle Airport for several gates during many years. After, when I sold the company, the new owner of the company decided to not maintain the safety and security product. I will explain why. And just only to maintain another vertical of the company that was much more rentable. And so that's why at the moment we are not anymore present with this company in the airports, not even in the stadium, by the way, for the safety and security part. And so to follow up with the story, and that's why also it's interesting to know how can work a startup and a business in a long period. When I was doing this first stadium in 2012 in Valenciennes, obviously my strategy was Valenciennes, playing in League One, is going to host every 2 weeks another club. So I told to the head of security, please let me come to every game during a full season. I stay with you and I see your colleague, head of security of the other clubs every 2 weeks, because you receive every 2 weeks another club. And so I can show him how works the system live during an event. And so that was a smart strategy, because I was so in the Valenciennes Stadium every 2 weeks, and I see Paris Saint-Germain, Lille, Marseille, Lyon, Auxerre, Nantes, all the French clubs, to come to play here. And so they see my software working every time they come in the stadium live, and with the guy that is the user, the head of security in Valenciennes, saying to the other head of security of the club, this software changed my life. I win money. I'm better in my job. I have a better control of all the gate. I know exactly how many people are in my stadium at every second. So my best ambassador, don't need any commercial. My best ambassador was the first user, the guy to use my product, and he see every 2 weeks the same guy with the same function as he has in Valenciennes, but from all of the other clubs, and he make the job for me. He sells my software because he say, I use it and it changed my life. I win money, I'm better in my job, I have a better security. So obviously, all the other opponents to see that say, I want it too. And and step by step, I start to sell this software to all the stadium in France. Obviously, the stadiums that are more than 20,000 seats, because little stadium, they didn't need to spend so many money to start with a project when they just managed like 50, 100 guys, and often they didn't even pay the private security because it was little stadium, and they do that with free voluntary guys, etc., etc. So, but at least I have in my portfolio all the 10 biggest stadium in France and the one to host the Euro 2016. So from 2012 to 2016, I have this software working in the 10 best stadium in France. And my job as the head of a company was to extend the market. So we do the airports, as I mentioned, and then I try to find other structure because I cannot live with only 10 structure under contracts plus 2 airports. So we thought about other sports. What about the rugby stadium? What about the handball stadium? What about the volleyball stadium? But this stadium has no enough people, no enough problem with security. They don't even pay the guy of security because they volunteer a lot of time. And so there is no market for me. So I was like in a closed market. Then I say, after that, I say, so I should go out of France. I should sell that in Spain, in Germany, in UK, to the other big stadium like Real Madrid, Arsenal, Bayern München. And I start to go country by country to the biggest club in Europe using good reference. I have Paris Saint-Germain, I have Lyon, I have Marseille, I have Paris Airport. So I was thinking be able to sell. But outside of France, the regulation on the CCTV system, the camera stream, was totally different. I was not allowed to make this CCTV stream in a mobile tablet, for example, should be stay only in the control room. Then also it was much more complicated to link the turnstile counting system because every league has a different system in back office system about the seats. In France, I have made a lot of technical partnership with different suppliers, and it was complicated to reproduce that in other country because I have no any other people as me to make the commercial because I didn't invoice enough to allow me to employ several people. You know, when we come back as I invoice too little when I start, and then I was just like good enough to pay my guy, but I cannot expand my company. And that the moment in 2013 that come totally from nowhere, a new opportunity of business for my company when Paris Saint-Germain was bought by the Qatar. In 2013, I received a call from Paris Saint-Germain. They say, you know, you have made the Parc des Princes in 3D for us for the security. Could we use this 3D model to represent the location of the people when they buy a seat online in the selling system online, and they can see exactly where they are seated using the 3D model of the Parc des Princes, as it was done in the USA with the NBA, with the NFL that have some 3D seat map model. When you choose your seat, you see exactly where you are going to be seated. You can open a 360 degrees panoramic tour, you know, of your stadium to just choose your location. So this didn't exist in Europe at the time. It only exists in the US. And Paris Saint-Germain, that have new funds, new money, would like to have everything is the best, the nicest, the greatest on Europe. So they say, we want the same thing in the US. You already have made the 3D of the Parc des Princes. Are you able also to make a 3D model with the best looking, best rendering that is good, such for us to be able to sell tickets? So I say, I don't know, to speak to my engineers because I'm not the guy to make the codes. My head of development say it will be super complicated because we need to give an instance to every seat in the stadium. So if there is 50,000 seats, we need manually to, in every pictures, give what is the coordinate, the data of every seat to put them in the back office to say if it's free or not, you can click on it or not. But we decide to try to do something with that. And finally, after 6 months of work, we have delivered to Paris Saint-Germain the first platform in Europe of 3D seating map. I think I have here an example on my other here. No, here. Let's show it. Yes, up. Why I cannot move my slide? Let me 1 second. Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. So you see my screen still? You see the Parc des Princes? Okay. So this was the first time in 2013 we were able to see, to say, okay, you are a top view of the Parc des Princes. You choose the block where it remains tickets. And then when you are on the block, you have the possibility to click on all the free seat. For you, it should sound like, well, it's so normal to have that, but in 2013, nobody had that. So we were the first one in Europe to provide this system. And so we were able to choose all the seats in the Parc des Princes and then to see the 3D view that was 360 degrees. And we do a specific rendering when you see, it was like super lighty. You see the reflect in the barriers. The seats were nice. The LED screen was different with the other seats. So we made a specific rendering that was even better that was doing in the USA at the moment for the NBA, for the NFL. And that was the fun stuff because we come from the safety and security, and to make a full stadium in a little tablet, the first tablet in the market that had a graphic card was very low in CPU. We have developed, without knowing that, with my engineer, a specific 3D model, low polygon, that were able to load a map with a lot of details, but the size of the map was very low. We need to do that to make the stadium working on the tablet. And so the fun fact, and that's where all the time that was the business's opportunity and some stuff, when Paris Saint-Germain asked us to do that, to work based on our 3D maps of Parc des Princes of big quality stuff, we have developed this. Without knowing, we developed something really, really revolutionary. And so at the moment, we have a very, very good render and the picture that was a very, very low size. In 2013, we were using 2G or 3G. There is no 4G, no 5G. It was like 2G, 3G. And so what you don't want is when the people are going to buy a ticket, if they load the map in 3D, that you don't want a buffering. You don't want people to spend 3 minutes front of the screen that the model of 3D is loading. And so what we were selling at that moment is like we were the unique solution in the market, but worldwide, not only in France, to be able in a mobile phone using 2G or 3G to open a 3D view in the stadium without any buffering. What's instantly. You click on the seat, boom, you open the 3D model, you can navigate in it. And so at the moment, so that's why also right now I'm in Real Madrid in 2013, I have the opportunity to speak to Real Madrid, and I come with my computer and my 3D Paris Saint-Germain models that was working. It was online, so I see people of Real Madrid. I connect myself on my computer. I say, okay, so let's have a look of Paris Saint-Germain 3D ticketing model. I show how it works. They see this. They say, wow, it's amazing. We didn't have that. I say, no, you don't have, and nobody has, because we just have made Paris Saint-Germain at the moment. And they say, okay, we want the same thing. We want the same thing. But we have a contract with Microsoft. So in 2012, Real Madrid signed a big contract with Microsoft. And Microsoft, as a gold partner, they have the first choice of every new technology stuff to come in the ecosystem of Real Madrid. They could say, we want to do this 3D model by yourself because we are Microsoft and obviously we have billions and we can spend billions to make the best 3D model of Real Madrid Stadium ever. And so Real Madrid told me, I need to confront you with Microsoft. You need to come to see Microsoft in La Finca. They have new offices in La Finca. It is a specific neighborhood in Madrid. You need to go there. You do a meeting. You show to them what you are able to do. And they will say, we let you the business with Real Madrid for the 3D maps, or we decide to do ourselves. I said, okay, no choice. But me, I say, I have no any chance against Microsoft. I was a little company of 7 guys working with this first 3D ticketing model. And so I go end of 2013, I go to Microsoft office. I'm received by Microsoft guys. They say, okay, who are you? We don't understand why we have to meet you, but let's talk. Okay, so I say, this is my 3D model with Paris Saint-Germain. I say, okay, it's nice. So Real Madrid wants the same. I say yes. So they just clearly told me, you are the first choice. So if you want to do it with Microsoft, you do it. If you don't want to do it, then they could contract me. And they say, no, we know to do 3D models, obviously. I say, yeah, you know to do 3D models, but in your mobile phone, when you put it responsive in mode portrait, in mode paysage, landscape, are you able to open without any buffering? And the guy say to his engineer in chief, all 3D model, what's the size of every pictures to open? And the guy says around 10 mega, 10 megaoctet. And they say to me, what is the size of your pictures? And I say, I'm less than 1 mega. And the guy say, less than 1 mega? Is that possible for us to do that? The guy say, no. Oh, we need to spend millions to do that. They say, okay, we don't want this market, we leave it to you. So I go out of Microsoft, winning against Microsoft, in a technological product. And then I got the contract with Real Madrid. And at that moment, I have Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, and the snowball effect, which is the dream of every guy growing a startup happens, snowball effect, everybody seeing that online, everybody speaking about the product. I signed 100 stadium or facilities in 1 year. So I explode totally my number of customers because of this 3D model system. I was the unique guy in Europe to do. And between 2014 and 2015, I signed more than 100 different customers. I hire a lot also. I was like 25 people, employees in my company at the moment. And I have very different clients like Roland Garros, Open Monaco. I have the hippodromes where they do the race of horses. I have theaters in Paris. I have theaters in London. I have Wimbledon. I have Benfica, Lisbon, Arsenal, Hamburg. I sign contract everywhere in Europe with a lot of different venues. And so it was like finally the success of my company, changing totally the objective at the beginning. We were a safety and security company, and finally we end to be a ticketing provider company, which is much more expandable because ticketing, it's a market that's much more money maker like the safety and security. And that's why when I say after I sold the company and the guys that bought my company quit totally the safety and security systems, I was not making money enough for them, and they only keep the 3D ticketing system map in the portfolio of the company. So in 2015, I start to receive offers. Obviously, people speaks a lot. There is a French company that has the 100% of the market of the ticketing and 3D map in Europe. So obviously, I attract big names. They offer me several millions to buy my company over the price it should have been. And me, I decide at the moment to sell the companies. And then I have like a 3-year transition that was very annoying. You should to know that if you buy if you create your own company and people want to buy your company, then you need to make the transition, could be from 1 year to 5 years, depending of the agreement you make with the people to buy your company, but they need you to make the transition with the new staff, the new owners, with all the customers to know that you have change of owner, etc., etc. It's very an annoying time because it's your company, but you're not anymore in charge of your company because people have bought your shares and you work for him in your own company you have created at the beginning. So it's kind of strange situation that I really dislike, to be honest. And I dislike it so much that only 1 year and a half, almost 2 years on the transition program, I say to them, I will renounce all of my bonus, but I prefer to stop right now and just take back to my liberty and not be anymore the employee of the proper company I created, So I renounce to to some of my bonus I should have at the end of the transition to just come back in the market. So we were in 2017, 2018. And it's difficult at the time. I got 35-year-old, 36-year-old. I sold the company. I was what I'm going now. I didn't want to go back to create something because it was a lot of stress. I was all my life in the road, driving, taking planes, selling is mentally really exhaustive. And at that moment, so I decide to take a job they offer me from the UEFA. The UEFA in Switzerland has a ticketing company which is called Secutix. And because I was like a specialist in the ticketing system at the moment, they asked me to develop the first blockchain mobile ticketing system. So we were in 2018 in the objective to have in the Euro Cup 2020 in Europe all the tickets in a telephone, in a smart mobile, everything under the rules of the blockchain to ensure that when you forward a ticket to someone, we can track all the tickets movement. We can activate the QR code of the ticket only in the people we decide to activate or not, because it was all under the rules of blockchain. It was the beginning of the blockchain. And so I start to work for Secutix company of the UEFA during 2 years to develop the first blockchain mobile ticketing system. We do that, we deliver, we make all the tests in the stadium of Lyon, in the Groupama stadium, because it was very close to Switzerland, the biggest stadium, the most close to the UEFA. So we work in Lyon during 2 years. Obviously, Lyon was one of my biggest customer from my company before, so I knew them very well, so it was super easy for me. And so we developed this system, and it works well. The Euro 2020 has been postponed due to the COVID crisis to Euro 2021, and the project we developed in blockchain was working for the Euro 2021, and almost 100% of the tickets have been released through the blockchain ticketing platform. That is called Tixengo. It's still in use for every game of the UEFA and FIFA National Championship. For the last Mondial in Qatar was also the software was in charge. If you go to final of Champions League, every final of Champions League of Europa League is working also with this system. And it will be the case for the next Champions League final, for example. On 2020, no, at the end of 2019, Real Madrid called me because they would like to create Real Madrid Next, which is the hub of innovation of the clubs, with the main idea to integrate a lot of startups in the ecosystem of Real Madrid, because Real Madrid is super difficult to enter to work in Real Madrid. Is such exigence, such excellency, everything in the club that they used to choose big companies, not startup, to work with the clubs. But they have known me with my little company of Pacifa. I win against Microsoft at that moment. They have seen that a startup could enter in the ecosystem of the club and could make it nice. So they have also the idea after I release my company to say, okay, why we don't do the same as we've done with Pacifa, so the company of Julien, to integrate more startup, but in different area of the clubs, in the medical, in the performance, in the cyber and tech, etc., etc. As I was knowing the ecosystem of Real Madrid, and I was a guy that has make my proof, on creating a startup, making a success and selling it, they asked me to lead the startup program in Real Madrid, so through Real Madrid Next. So that's what I accept, and I start in March 2020. And so since March 2020, I'm in charge of choosing all the best startup in all the area of works of Real Madrid. So medical, performance, fan engagement, audiovisual, cybersecurity and technology, and social, to be able to develop pilot project to see if the product can fit really the expectation of Real Madrid. If it's the case, then to negotiate the contract and the license to integrate these companies in Real Madrid. In the last 6 years, so since March 2020, or in April 2026, so it's exactly 6 years I start here in Real Madrid. As I told at the beginning, we review more than 1,000 startups. By the way, I can show you a slide for that. Yes. So we review more than 1,000 project and company startup in Real Madrid Next. We have assessed and evaluated that almost 400, 380 exactly, were good enough to be presented to different director of the department, performance department, medical department, from whom 86 of this company was good enough again to sign an NDA that to enter in final discussion. And from this 86 companies, 62 has been able to do a pilot project with a real 2, 3, 4 months commitment of the staff of Real Madrid to use the product and to give feedback. From this 62 companies, we have signed 20. So 1/3 of the company has signed a final contract. Why is super interesting this number? Because when I said, when you launch a company to make it a success, there is so many steps, so many difficulties to reach the top. On more than 1,000 company, I received a deck that was sports tech company. We finally signed contract with 20. So it's like 2%. And we have so many company of sports tech coming to us, saying us, we are the best in what we do. We have a groundbreaking project. We have the new ideas that's going to change the world. Everything that the people really believe. And sometimes it's really the case, but it's not adapted to the market. It's not really ready. They don't have enough reference for us. So many things can happen, making that we don't choose the company. And at the end, only 2% of what we receive sign a contract with us. So it's really restrictive. That's why I said creating company with a good idea is not enough. There is market time, market opportunity, and all the time, and everything in life is the same. There is luck. You need to have luck sometime also to be at the good time, good moment, the good guy to introduce you, the good strategy. Sometimes is a bit of luck also is needed. And just to finish this first part of presentation, that almost all presentations, and after I would like you to ask me question. I have uh, the best mentorship ever I had in my life to create and launch a startup from scratch, from zero. I have that in 2010. So at the really beginning of my product, I even don't have the final product. I only have the idea, starting to have the financement to create the company. And I have the opportunity to do 1 week of international entrepreneurship MBA courses in Lyon, uh, in a very famous business entrepreneurship school in Lyon in France. And the head of the program of international entrepreneurship, on the Monday morning, he say, you're going to have like 60, 70 hours during 5 days, super intensive, 8 to 10 p.m., 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. You will see the best expert in everything, in team building, a legal advisor, how to create a team, a company, how to sell a product, how to define a price, how to everything. So you will see the best expert in everything, how to export, how to go to Asian market, how to go to the USA, etc., etc. And so you have this chance, you have been selected for this program. It's 5 days intensive international program entrepreneurship week. So enjoy. On the Friday, at the end, at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., it's the end of the 5 days, super intensive. We are all exhausted. We have learned so much. And the guy, the head of the program, the head of the business school, came to make the outro of the weeks. And he said to us, we were like 20 guys, all around like 25, 30 years old, creating companies. And he say, so you see this 5 days intensive. And I want you just remember one thing. All you just have seen, learned is bullshit. It's fully bullshit. And so we were like, what happened? So we just spent 5 days. He said will be the best moment of our life. We will learn everything. He comes at the end of the 5 days and he said it was all was bullshit. And he say, you are going to launch your company You just have to know one thing, one word. All of the thing you learn this week is bullshit for you right now. Maybe it will be useful in 2, 3 years, but right now you need just to remind one word is selling, sales. Sell. You need to sell. You need to sell. You don't need to think about the team building. You don't need to think about the business model. You don't need to think about nothing before making the first sale. The selling is the key of everything because too many business has good idea, good team, good legal advisor, good business model, but they don't sell the product. So I work over, I going out this one intensive week of business international and I was like, yeah, okay, selling, selling, selling. So I just to focus that to sell. And it changed my mindset at the moment. And that when I start to really buy a new car, a car that can make a lot of kilometers, and during my developer was developing the codes, me, I was starting to go on every stadium, on every leagues, different country, speaking with the final user, the head of security of every clubs, of every leagues. I put me in some forum, conference, and I was confronting myself with the market even before my product was ready. And it was like, I think what has made also the success of my product, because when I create the product at the end in 2012, I spent 2 years to pre-sell it because I was asking to every end user what you really would like to have at the end. What is the price you think you're going to do? And I was changing all the development all the time according to my meeting with the end user, the final end user, the final buyer, saying, no, the guy didn't care about this option we're going to put in the software. He wants that. We want to focus on that. And we create the software exactly to respond at the needs of the end user. And that's why when I came in the market, I knew already my end users. I proposed to them exactly what they want to have. And so they say, okay, so it's what we want. So we buy it. Plus, using the first customer as my best commercial, for me, that was like the key of success of selling. And so that's the end of my speech to explain how to create companies in sports tech and how to take the opportunity that came back to you. So right now, if you want to ask me question, whatever it is, I'm full available to speak with you. Yes, please, Brian. Mm.
So first of all, thank you so much for that presentation. Your story is very inspiring and motivating for people in our position. So in the last session, we talked about business opportunities, and you even mentioned it. You were kind of like in the right place at the right time. What would you say is like your best advice for us that are just, very early in our careers, in our MBA? Where do we start, and where do we, keep an eye on for those business opportunities?
Yes, for me, one of the key has been to attend to a lot of workshop, international conference, because it's where you start to make the network. So there is two advantage to do that. First of all, it's never staying in your position and making internet, Google, ChatGPT now. Even if everything is online right now, the real interaction, human interaction, physical moment make the difference because it's your network making your future sales. It's complicated to arrive with a product, even the better, and to see the person for first time. So my piece of advice is try to go at the maximum of possibility to workshop, conference, international symposiums in which you are going both, first of all, to see the other products that is going to be present, new innovation, new companies, new stuff that you don't even know it exists and can feed your even ID or change your ID because you say, wow, I'm going to develop something that these two guys have already developed better that I was thinking I could do it. So why spending 2 years to develop an idea that is easy? It's better. They're already in the conference showing the product. So they were going to kill the market before I arrive because we have a lot of the same idea, same moment also. So first of all is making the full case study of what exists in the world that could be lookalike of your ID to be sure to not develop the same stuff. So that's why also when you go to innovation conference, you see something that is still not in the market. So you discover stuff. You make relation with the companies because you all the time need to speak to other technical companies that can help you to display your products, that can be also your sellers because you can be a complement of what they already do. And so you make contact with those guys, and inside the networking system of this conference, you also meet the end users, the club's owners, club responsible of innovation as I am. I have a lot of conference. So for example, you can meet me. I remember once in the World Football Summit in Sevilla 3 years ago, I decided to attend all the people requesting me in the app to meet me. I make 78 personal meeting in one day. Because why? I'm Real Madrid, of course, so people want to sell to Real Madrid, you know? But just imagine new people, new companies, new startups that don't even know they exist. They request me 78 people request to see me in one day in World Football Summit in Sevilla. So it's the stuff you should do also, because then right now you got some app to know the attendees list. You need to pick up the right people. You need to check on Google their face if they have not their photo on the app, because you need to spot the guy in the conference. I want to speak with him because he's the guy of Adidas. I want to speak with him because he's from Borussia Dortmund and no, say, I don't know. I speak German, for example. So, you know, the first impression when you have something in common with someone is making the first feeling. So I think human contact, even in the era of every internet, every mobile, every etc., EA, etc., still is the key of selling stuff, because the one who is going to put the money on your product is not artificial intelligence. He is a guy to make the check, you know. So if you know the guy to pay, if you know the guy to the end user, and the personal interaction are really, really important. And so that's why if you subscribe to newsletter or conference, etc., and you can go to interesting workshop, conference, you meet other supplier, technical guys, end users, owners. For me, it's super, super important. You create your ecosystem, you put the guy in LinkedIn, they know your face, they have spoken with you, they have redirect you, you know, in the good way of your ID, because sometimes you're not the end user, you think it's the good ID, but the guy that's going to have the software in the end say, this, I'm not sure of that functionality, but I really need that. And you redirect your ID, you know? It's how I build my own stuff, and I've seen it was quite effective. So my piece of advice to really start to in the business.
Thank you.
Answer that question. Any other question?
Hi, Julian.
Oh,
I have a question.
hi. Yeah.
I work for the Romanian Football Federation, and I would like to ask you, in what way the artificial intelligence is going to impact the safety and security system? What you have been saying about the software and all this stuff. So, in what way is going to make it better than it is right now?
So I think artificial intelligence is just the first step of the quantitative system. You know, the quantitative laptop, a quantitative study will be the real game changer. AI is just the first step, because, for example, when you have all the cryptocurrency, all which is secured with the SSL certificate, etc., is something of 32 octet, 64 octet, I don't remember, but it's like the key of security. All of this system is something that just a computer make days, months to crack. But with quantitative computer, it will be seconds. So we will need to change all the protocol of safety and security about cryptocurrency, transaction online, wire transfer, magnetism of the gate of security, everything in maybe 3-4 years, when the quantic computing will be on the market. So this will be a real big game changer for everything in the world of safety and security, even for stadium. Right now, the EA impact a lot much more the possibility to code and develop much more faster. So it's much more something for marketing, audiovisual, all the step of fan engagement, fan loyalty, etc. For safety and security, it's left really, if we focus safety and security, is not the AI that is going to change so many things right now, on my point of view. But when comes the quantic laptop available to everyone, that will be a big mess.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other question? And so, if there's no more question, just to conclude quickly, when you are an entrepreneur once, you are an entrepreneur all your life. Because, as I said, when I sold my company, I didn't want anymore to create more companies, and I worked. But finally, I create more companies after in side project, because it's something, when you touch the entrepreneurship world, and it's so nice to create project, to sell the project, to represent project. It's difficult, even if sometimes you say, oh, no, I don't want anymore to be involved in project by myself. Once you make your first exit, or even your first fail, and if you want to come back, then you come back in different way, maybe as an advisor, just you are a shareholder, you're not the main creator, but it's really something addictive, when you have the entrepreneurship fibers, then you come back, and me, I create different company after that. I have failures, success. I participate in investing in other company, and I think this is also a positive stuff of the entrepreneurship, is you create a network, then people trust you to become shareholder or advisor for their own company, and you are all the time follow up in the entrepreneurship system, because it's really addictive, to generate project, and not just to be the one to execute that one another guy told you to do. That's why also for me, my position right now in Real Madrid to be head of innovation, and I'm not really an employee like normal, because I have the end of choosing companies, reviewing, advising the companies. So it's like an in-between position between like making business with startup and be a club. So it's really nice position. And also, if you have possibility of being like a consultant or an advisor in innovation or sports technology in a federation of a club or something like this, I think it's not like the same to have a company, but you lead the startup program, and so you are with the startup all the time. You see the project, new idea, you help them, you support them, to redirect the good idea. And sometimes it's almost the same grateful, to see a project you're not even part, but you support, to enhance and to come on the field and function. Is like really nice to support startup and create support. I think you are in the good way, to choose that way. It's complicated one, but when you are in that way, the little success you got are really grateful. Really, you have to be proud of that. So I wish you all the best for the next step in your career. You got my name, so you can add me to LinkedIn, ask me whatever you want. If you want to be in touch with me in LinkedIn, it's the easiest way, by the way, or directly via my email. I don't know if I give you my email, but my email is disponible. Also, you can ask to Javier. If you want to write me an email, he gives you my email. And if not, do not hesitate to appoint me a LinkedIn message. I'm not responsive in 24 hours, but I respond normally in like 1 week, 2 week, when I have time to review my inbox. So if there is no other question, we almost make the time, and I hope it has been for you inspiring and interesting, and wish you the best in your next step in your career. Bye.
Thank you.
Awesome. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.